Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I've done this video before. I didn't particularly like it, so I'm going to do this video one more time. A few days ago, it was released that the United States government, or you can say the intelligence services within the government, had set up a negotiation with WikiLeaks, with the Julian Assange. They had a go-between. They have a communication between the two. Julian Assange was trying to secure a safe passage out of the embassy without being arrested and extradited to the United States. And the United States wanted Julian Assange to essentially redact some of the information. Meaning the United States government knew that Assange had, I think this was the CIA vault, a ton of information. This was when the Trump administration came in, the earlier part of the Trump administration. And they were communicating with him to say, look, we need that information not to be released. That is going to be painful, and we need for you to not to do that. Assange's camp said, we are willing to redact some of this information, providing we get passage, limited immunity. Implicit in this, though, understand what's implicit in this. The fact that this negotiation is taking place at all means that all of us who've been saying the United States government has some kind of secret warrant that's hiding behind whatever the Brits are doing to try to get him extradited. And we're right, because otherwise this negotiation doesn't take place. They are literally going after him because he's exposing what these governments are doing to the public themselves. Understand how weird this is. The government itself is supposed to be this full of the will of the public, meaning the power of the government comes from the expressed confidence of the public itself. We are representing the interests of the people who put us in these offices, these liberal democracies. So how does that, the philosophical liberal democracy, line up with this thing of lying to the people of that democracy? How can people be the avatar of that government? Or how can people put these people in office if they don't understand what the government itself is doing? Meaning, how could I make rational decisions about what my government is doing if I don't know what my government is doing? He's revealing information. Now, that information rubs government the wrong way because government, in many of these cases, is doing stuff that they have no business doing. And I am one of those advocates that believe in transparency for government. You can't make decisions about what your government is doing if they're hiding everything behind this wall saying national security. Well, it's not always national security. Sometimes it's waste, fraud, abuse, murder, intimidation, etc., etc., etc. That's a tangent. Let's get back to Assange. Negotiations are taking place between the two. Now, Assange has agreed to redact certain parts of the data, certain parts of the file. The United States government is agreeing to give him limited safe passage. Assange throws something else on the Barbie. He says, look, I would also, even though I would not reveal my sources, prove to you, establish to you, nail down to you, almost as a flat fact part of our physical matter reality, actors who are not, NOT, responsible for the hack or the leak, the DNC release. Now, understand what he's saying. His main point here is, look, I'm going to get it across to you that Russia didn't do it. All of hysteria that your media has gone with, all of the hysteria that the Democratic Party has gone with, all of this war talk and war rhetoric, all of it is nonsense. They didn't do it. I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to establish to you that the discourse, the political discourse in your system for the last 2 years has been utter and complete incomprehensible nonsense. And the negotiations break down. They break down. Now, the government was getting what it wanted. He was going to redact some of the information. He was open to it. They were even setting up for a situation where he could come out and actually talk to some members or U.S. members or congressional members or whatever, who else was a part of this particular negotiation. They were asking where this negotiation was going to be, London or the United States. Negotiations were moving ahead. They were moving forward. The person who intervened in this was Comey, the guy who let Clinton off. Comey, the one who was just browbeat or tongue-lashed in the IG's report. Comey, the leaker of information, the liar to Congress. That guy. The guy who essentially let Clinton walk. The IG report even comes out saying there's no way to know that this particular case was done fairly. because of all the bias actors that were associated with the case, even though in a limited window of what he was asked, he wrote this kind of lawyer answer of no bias. Look at his congressional testimony and tell me if there's no bias. Comey supposedly calls or contacts Mark Warner. Mark Warner turns around and tells them in the negotiations, stand down. Stand down. Now, the people who were part of negotiations said, that's bullshit. What do you mean stand down? The intelligence community hated Julian Assange's guts. That's fair enough. But at the very least, they didn't want that information to be released because for them, it was a larger deal that they not injure the people who are out there in the fields working. Warner and Comey stand down. This creates a certain amount of distrust in the Julian Assange team. Now, because ultimately it's like, look, we're revealing to you who hacked your system. The one person, only person in the world, the one person who would know as a flat fact where he gets that information from. That guy is going to be in a room with you, and he's going to look you in the face, he's going to shake your hand, and he's going to say, Moscow didn't do it. And he's going to say, here's the evidence showing you Moscow didn't do it. Here's the flat fact evidence. Now you, as Mike Pompeo, has gone around and said that they're a foreign actor. Now here's the thing. No, I'm sorry, that Trump is illegitimate. The Russian argument in some degree hinges or pushes this idea that Trump won not because of his own merits, but because Russia has something to do with it. The lefties that were against the status quo were done so because they were being manipulated by Vladimir Putin. He was putting his fingers into the American political discourse to such a degree that lefties who were environmentalists, part of Black Lives Matter, people who wanted to get rid of superdelegates, all of these people were Russian agents or Russian inspired. This is an amazing thing to hear. But that's been our political discourse. You have been able to look at these people and call them fake news because you would have evidence from the guy who would know. And you guys let that all piss away. And you let it get pissed away because of Comey. The hanger-on from the last administration that let Clinton off, let your political opponent walk. That is incompetence on a massive scale. When this negotiation fell apart, Julian Assange released one of the other trolls that essentially was damaging. Mike Pompeo comes out and says he's, what did he call it, a terrorist state or something, or a foreign intelligence actor, a non-state intelligence actor or something. But again, that was after negotiations broke down. My point in this is, from a political stance, right here, this is the hill. This is what the story comes from. A hostile actor. A hostile actor. On April 7, 2017, Assange released documents with the specifics of some of the CIA malware used for cyber attacks. It had an immediate impact. A furious U.S. government backed out of the negotiations, and the CIA director Mike Pompeo slammed WikiLeaks as a hostile intelligence service. I know all of you media organizations don't necessarily like to support WikiLeaks, but you also can be considered a hostile intelligence service. Anything can be considered a hostile intelligence service. Those things are just words. The moment that you've allowed, at this point in our political discourse, words no longer have meaning. And that's not something that Trump brought into office, by the way. That's something that was taking place year after year after year after year as you allowed yourselves to be manipulated politically into writing certain stories a particular way, giving a certain cadence a particular way, as opposed to giving people a full contextual view of their world. Hostile intelligence service is just anything that's hostile to the government. Just like a terrorist is fundamentally anything that's hostile to the government. Those terms are relative in meaning. I'm saying you can be at the end of one of those terms. Assange is an easy target just because he's releasing information. He's doing actual journalism. He's a journalist. That's what he is. And you guys should stand by him. That being said, Assange could be out today, walking the earth today. That one-time leave or that limited immunity would have been able to allow the Trump administration to castigate all of the media, which he loves to do, castigate his political opponents is completely inept. eliminate this stain on his legacy that they've put on of this thing of it's almost like a birtherism in reverse, if that makes sense. You know, you're a Russian actor, you're a Russian actor. Or Russia got you elected, Russia got you elected, you didn't get elected by your own steam. I'm making a point that there are several political benefits of going through with this. And you guys let a hanger on from a previous administration that let your political opponent off be the determining factor, and this deal going to pot. Now, that's unless Warner is telling the truth. Warner could be lying. Warner might have just wanted to kill the deal and had no conversation with Comey. I have no idea. He could have been covering his ass politically saying I had a conversation with Comey. The problem is, the moment that you talk to Comey and Warner, those are the two you need to talk to figure it out. I don't know. I have no conversations, or I haven't seen any conversations between him and Comey, so he could be lying about the Comey thing. Either way, between Comey and Democrat Warner, they've nixed this deal. That's amazing. I'm putting an article at the bottom. I think I did a pretty fair representation of it, seeing as I've done this story like 4 times. I know by heart. So, I'm trying to think, is there anything else? No, I don't think there's anything else. I'll leave it here. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks guys. And